actually mean to you? When you say that you're ready to be in a relationship, what does that relationship look like?
I definitely want to be in a committed,
Okay.
long-term relationship leading up to marriage. So I want the guy to approach me. 'Cause I'm not about to approach anyone.
Okay.
Approach me, court me, and then let's build towards something. And the end result is, of course, is marriage.
Okay, so we're not trying to do any kind of short-term type of situation, all right. So in the past, have you ever had a relationship that you felt like met this criteria?
No.
Okay, so in the past, have you had a relationship that you thought was pretty okay? Like, can you refer back to one and you're like, he was cool in the sandbox, he let me play with his toys. Stephanie D. McKenzie. I am a super coach, right? Because I deal with life, love, relationship and business, healing, health, and wholeness. So I pretty much run the total gambit of like transformation. I have about 11 certifications, and then of course there's just life. And so in that, I've been able to, bring that to the table. And then of course professionally, I have a crazy background from owning my own marketing agency to having my own business for the last 30 some odd years, and coaching relationships my entire life. So says my mother. But I didn't want to do it professionally. I didn't even know that that existed. What happened was I was working with a dating site, and I said, I'll go get certified so we can offer relationship education. Thought that was great. Didn't want to be the marketing person that also did relationship whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll go get certified. The project kind of sort of broke down in the middle of it, and I'm like, well, that sucked. So I was certified, and I had already started building the brand and social media, and so people were like, oh, we love your posts, we love your this, I'm like, no, I don't want this. And so I kind of ended up getting drugged into this kicking and screaming. I'll tell anybody that. Like, it wasn't some well thought out plan, I'm gonna be a coach and I'm gonna help people change their lives. No, it was like, I'm going to be a coach. Why? Like, that was kind of how it was. And I was like, after about a year, I say a year or two of fighting pretty hard, I finally just said, okay, fine. And that's when What the Love became the relationship firm.
My name is Nancy Pena, and I'm a Christian relationship counselor. I have been working with individuals and couples for over 20 years. I started my career in a video dating service, and through that experience, I decided to branch out and have my own matchmaking service, which I did for a number of years until I sold that to a national company. After that, I went back to school and I got my counseling degree, and since then I've been helping people with their relationships and growing in the Lord and learning how to figure out the best path to finding the right person, and if they're married, to increase the intimacy within that relationship based on the Word of God and creating that foundation if it is not there, and strengthening that foundation. I feel that a lot of people look at many superficial things when they're trying to decide who they should marry and the reasons why we should stay together, instead of making the focus on the Lord and the Word of God.
More couples calling the office now. However, none of them are willing to make the investment to do what needs. Like, many of them, I think what's happening is that COVID has revealed some things to them that they didn't really like. And so in that space, they're desperate. They're desperate for help. They're completely desperate. And so they're calling, but it's like, okay, well, what you want to do, this program is this, that, and third, it'll take this long. And I think they all want this microwave solution because they've waited so long. And so lately, we haven't been dealing with couples as much.
there's been a significant change within relationships. I know it just depends on the couple. If they're all of a sudden working from home together, that presents some challenges because the dynamic of the relationship has changed somewhat because their routine has changed. So I believe couples are just coping in the best way that they know how during this time. And yes, it does increase the tension level in the household, and that's where I come in to try and help dissipate that and keep the focus on what we should be keeping the focus on, is that God is in control of everything, and that this too, it has a purpose, and the purpose is perfect because He is the one who allowed this to happen to our country for a reason. And it is our attitude towards during these times that really determines what you're going to get out of the particular problem or the crisis.
I think it affected, well, some of them it affected positively, right? We don't hear a lot about that, but some of them it did. You know, maybe they got to spend more time together. And I have some clients now that literally I was there when he told her he wanted a divorce. I was there. I was sitting there. And that was the first time I ever did a session in 2 different rooms. And so, but now, you know, they've moved into their house. COVID has revealed how strong their relationship really can be with all the shifts and the homeschooling and all the other things. And so that's a good thing. But with the other people, it has revealed the cracks in the foundation, like it really has. And they're not really excited about that. I think so many people were ready to say, oh, everything's so great, and we're going to get married, or we're going to be together, or whatever. And then they get into the situation where, you know, we're both in each other's space. We find out that we really didn't know each other that well. And the things that we have found out don't really move our relationship forward. And so now there's this scramble, right? Because now we're cohabitating, because, you know, we're quarantined together, whatever the case may be. But there's this scramble to fix it. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's not going to happen in one session. I think literally people think that and I'm good, but they think I'm so good I can just wave a magic wand and everything's going to be great. Some relationships are going to thrive post the pandemic. Some of them are not even going to exist. You know, there are quite a few people, like I said, that have gone through breakups. And listen, it had nothing to do with COVID. Like, whatever was going on in that relationship, COVID just magnified it. And I think that could be a good thing, because then it's like, okay, I see clearly, right? I see clearly. But in that, it really depends on the relationship. You know, it really depends. You know, COVID, as with conflict, as with everything else, will show us who we are and who we aren't. And sometimes it shows us who we are and who we are and who we are not supposed to be with. I think really having a conversation about it, not being assumptive, you know, because people assume a lot of things in relationships. You know, it's like, well, they should know, and they should know, and they should know. And I'm like, why? Why should they know these things? And so being willing to have hard conversations, like, how do you feel about this? Well, should we be quarantining together? Do you need time apart? How do you recharge? You know, asking real questions that demonstrate that you care about the other person, as well as being assertive for the things that you need, and stop putting so much pressure on the relationship to sustain you. You should be a whole person before you get into the relationship. You know, most people put too much weight on a relationship to either make them happy or to prop them up or to bring them joy. And I'm like, no, it's supposed to add and multiply. It's not supposed to be the sole source of anything. That's just not fair. So I think when you have, you know, these conversations, when you have real conversations, not just passively, oh, you happy? Okay, great. You know, but having real conversations allows you to, you know, to let whatever comes into the relationship or come around the relationship fuel you forward and not drain your energy.
I think one of the positive things about COVID has been a simpler way of life, because so many entertainment venues have been shut down, the sports, the concerts, movies, that it has allowed couples and families to unite. And hopefully that has been the case for many families, that they have found ways to interact with one another that's on a more positive level, and to really communicate with one another instead of just allowing experience to be their life.
It depends on how strong the relationship was, before this. I always tell people that relationships are made in adversity, in trouble. You don't really know who you're dating or who you're in a relationship with until there's a loss, or until there's sadness, until there's anger, until there's fear, until there's discouragement. You don't really know who you're dating. And contingent upon how somebody copes with that, contingent upon how they communicate, conflict and all the things that come with it, and the challenges that come with this time that we're living in, could make your relationship stronger if it was pretty strong to begin with. If it was a little weak and fragmented, then it's gonna be a little interesting to navigate.